Hey everyone, I'm Robert and welcome back to Tone Chase Basement. Today we're diving into a project that I've been working on for the last couple of months, one I am super excited about. We're going to build together the ultimate 62 spec Stratocaster Partscaster. Now this isn't your typical Partscaster because every single piece of this guitar is going to be out of 100% genuine Fender parts. And let's say that almost everything historically correct. Now I've been scouring the used market for the last couple of months to get all the right parts because I just wanted to do it right. So this is going to be a special one, so make sure to stick around. But before we start, please smash that like button and make sure to subscribe to the channel. So why a 1962 Strat? Well, good question. I already own this incredible 2004 Fender USA Strat, which is an amazing guitar with its modern specs and hot rodded tweaks. But if you're a Strat lover like me, then you know that the 62 Stratocaster is just a timeless classic. The vintage specs of the 62 are often seen as the holy grail of Stratocasters. It's a guitar that defines so much what we love about the sound and the feel of a Strat. You know, all the most influential guitarists, at least for me, played or still play a 62 Strat like Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, John Frusciante or John Mayer. The 62 Strat was pivotal in guitar history. It was part of the transition away from the 50s maple neck Strats, introducing the rosewood fretboard for a warmer, more rounded sound. It still had the smaller vintage frets and a nitrocellulose finish that all contribute what many players think as the ultimate Strat feel. It just got that dirty vintage charm and a slightly brighter but hotter tone compared to the mellow 50s models, and completely different than the more modernized hot rodded Strats. But before we dive into the build, let's clarify what's a Partscaster. Well, it's essentially a guitar that's put together from different parts, often even from different brands. Now, this is technically a Partscaster because all the parts are from different guitars or new parts, but with a twist. All the parts that I'm gonna use are original Fender, except the pickups. But you know, nowadays a lot of people change their pickups in their original Stratocasters and it still remains a Stratocaster, so that doesn't really count. Most of these parts come from various 62 American vintage race shoe models from the 90s, which, if you know Fender history, the Avery line in these times were the peak of Fender production, and basically these models equal today's custom shop build and quality. In my opinion, building a Partscaster is a great idea in practical terms because it allows you to fully customize a guitar to your exact preferences while often saving money compared to buying a high-end or a custom shop model. You can choose each component, the body, neck, pickups, hardware, tailoring your guitar's feel, playability and sound to your unique needs. Additionally, Partscasters give you the flexibility to source high-quality parts from different brands or vintages, often resulting in a truly one-of-a-kind instrument. Plus, it gives you a deeper connection to your guitar and a sense of accomplishment. The two most critical parts of a guitar are, of course, the body and the neck. And I've got something truly special here because both of them are from 62 American vintage reissues. The body is actually from August 1997 in this beautiful shoreline gold color, and it's actually a nitrocellulose finish, which is key because unlike modern poly finishes, nitro breathes more over time and lets the wood resonate naturally and age beautifully, so it's vintage all the way. The neck is also from 97, April to be exact, so both of the parts are close in age, and this neck has some pedigree because it passed QC by A. Murillo, one of Fender's QC legends in the 90s, so I have no doubt about quality here. It's got the classic oval C neck profile, rosewood fretboard with vintage frets that give you the true vintage feel, and here comes the only non-period correct thing, is that it's got a 9.5 fretboard radius instead of the 725, which actually I don't mind at all because for me 9.5 is much more comfortable to play, and also many of the 60 specs custom shops today come with a 9.5 fretboard radius. And here is something they did very correct, small thing but still important, is that the decal, the Fender logo, is above on the lacquer and not under the lacquer, which is also something small thing but very specific to the 62 Strat as well. And the back of the neck is a beautiful darker colored wood, not sure if it's the wood or the lacquer in it, but it really looks like an old guitar from the 60s. And here's why using Fender parts is so great. The neck pocket and the neck fit perfectly, and that's not the case with mixed brand Partscasters, because they might need some mods and adjustments to fit perfectly. But here it's like they were perfectly made for each other. Now let's talk pickups, because these are arguably the heart of your guitar sound, and when we talk about Stratocasters, the pickups are key to unlocking that iconic tone. And for this project I wanted the most authentic, vintage correct pickups that I could find. So that's why I teamed up with Kloppmann Electrics from Germany, and these guys are the industry leaders in creating vintage spec pickups. Their attention to detail and dedication to tonal accuracy have made their pickups the favorite among vintage tone enthusiasts and professional guitarists alike for a reason. And for this build they were kind enough to send me their incredible Real 62 Stratocaster set, and let me tell you, if you're after the most accurate 62 Strat pickups on the market, these are it. Of course they have other Strat pickup models like 54s, 56s, 60s or 65s, and amazing pickups for other guitars like Telecasters, Jazzmasters, and they have humbuckers too, so make sure to check them out on the link below in the description. Now why are the pickups that important? Well, think of it like this. On an electric guitar, the body and the neck shape give you the feel and the resonance, but it's the pickups that take the vibration of the strings and convert it into an electric signal. In other words, the pickups are responsible for capturing the character of your guitar sound and transferring it to your amp. So the wood and the hardware set the foundation, but it's the pickups that you're actually hearing. So this makes them arguably the most important component in shaping your tone. Let's get into some technical details that make these pickups so special. Well, first off, these are hand-wound pickups. And it's a big deal because in the early 60s, pickups weren't wound by machines to tight uniform tolerances we see today. Instead, they were hand-wound, which introduced a certain level of variation and scatter in the windings, giving each and every pickup a slightly unique character. And Kloppmann replicates it perfectly, giving these pickups that same kind of organic, dynamic response that the original 62 pickups are famous for. Then there's the magnets. Kloppmann uses Alnico 5 magnets for these pickups, and these are the same types Fender used back in the early 60s. Alnico 5 magnets are known for their balance between warmth and brightness, and giving you that signature bell-like clarity in the high end while keeping the lows tight and focused. This combination gives you the quack in positions 2 and 4 that Strat players love for the clean tone, as well as the glassy singing quality in the neck position. So that's why choosing the right pickups for your Partscaster is absolutely critical. If you're building a 62 style Strat, you need pickups that match the tonal characteristics of that era. Stratocasters from different decades had differently spec'd pickups. For instance, the 50s models had more rounded highs and were lower output, while the 60s had hotter output, were brighter but a more refined sound, especially with the introduction of rosewood fretboard, which just mellows out the highs a bit. And yes, the fretboard material does impact the sound, big deal. Now let's move on to the electronics, which is also a very crucial part of the equation. I got a prewired set here that features a Switchcraft 5-way switch and a jack and 250K CTS pods, 2 tone and 1 volume of course, and a 0.047 nanoflux capacitor, so classic Strat specs. And for the rest of the hardware I kept it period correct. The bridge and the tremolo springs came from an old American vintage reissue 62 Strat, and the neck plate and the jack plate came with the body. And as for the screws, well, they've got some history because they are from my old 2004 American Strat, on which I years ago replaced the screws with some gold ones, but I kept hold on to the old ones, so they already got that perfect worn-in look. I went with a new 62 spec'd mint green pickguard, which fun fact has a slight difference to any other Strat pickguards because it has that kind of a small lowered kind of a hole here near the neck for the truss rod adjustment. But let's be real, adjusting the truss rod on a 62 Strat is a bit of a pain because you have to remove the neck entirely because the truss rod adjustment screw is on the bottom of the neck where it meets the body. And this is not very practical, to be honest, but if you want historically correct specs, then this is one of them and you just have to accept it. And also here I have a 62 shield plate that goes under the pickguard, and that is also something that was specifically used on 62 Strats. As for the knobs and the tremolo cover, I've got also some mint green and age light. Alright, enough talk and let's build this thing. So I'll walk you through the assembly process step by step, from fitting the neck to installing the pickups and the electronics, and show you how to get everything dialed in perfectly. So before everything I wanted to clean the body and polish it a little bit with some guitar polish. And then of course I wanted to polish the frets on the neck as well, because of its age. It has some oxidation on them, and I want clean frets, and as long as the guitar is still apart, it's easier to polish the frets, so I had to protect the fretboard with this purple tape, which is just great for the protection. And then I had this polish cream for the frets from Music Nomad, which you of course first have to put on the frets and then polish it with this circular machine, and then polish it until it cleans up greatly and shines. So yeah, it's a bit of a long procedure, but it's worth it. Then it's very good to clean and treat the fretboard with some orange or lemon oil. That is really good for rosewood fretboards. And then of course with a neck ruler you have to check if the neck is, straight. And on the 62 Strat you have to check the neck relief while it's still apart from the body, because you can only adjust the truss rod while the guitar is still apart. And once it's done, you just have to use the neck plate and some screws to put it together with the body. The next step is to put the bridge with the trem block into its place. It's a 6-point tremolo, so it's 6 screws that holds the bridge and the tremolo of course. Then on the back side of the body you have to put in the tremolo springs, and then once it has some tension, then you have to, adjust the screws and tighten it a little bit. Then I could put the body aside for a while, because now comes one of the most interesting, most important parts, installing the pickups and the electronics. But before that we have to make some space on the table, put all the tools, necessary tools up on the table, prepare the shield and the pickguard and the pickups and the electronics, and remove of course the protection nylon foil from the pickguard. So we start by putting the shield on the pickguard and then put the electronics and the pots in their holes, and then of course we have to tighten from the other side them a little bit, and then we can start with one of the most critical and for some the most scary part, with the soldering. So first I wanted to remove the capacitor, which is a 0.47 capacitor that came with the prewired set. Well, why would I do that? Well, because I got with the Kloppmann pickups some real historically correct capacitors with the same values that were used back in 62, so yeah, it is something that I didn't plan on doing originally, but when I saw that I got one from them, then I wanted to use that one of course. Then it's time to place the pickups into their rightful places. First the screws and the rubber distance holders for the pickups, and then screw them in just a little bit. Later we will just adjust the height. Now comes the second part of the soldering. So we have to solder all the white cables, which are the hot cables of the pickups, to their rightful places on the 5-way switch. I had to check the wiring diagram first to see not to solder them to the wrong jacks or wrong positions. It's always good to check and have a wiring diagram next to you if you are soldering pickups and electronics. After that, to keep things clean, we have to make some cable management. So yeah, tighten the cables a little bit, all the white ones separately and then separately the black ones. The black cables are the ground for each pickup, and we have to put them together from all 3 pickups, because all 3 pickups ground cables have to be connected to the back of one of the pots to the ground of course. And this is how a clean 62 Strat wiring should look like. Then it's time for the body to come back on the table. The whole pre-wired pickguard can be now placed into the body. First connect the ground cable to the body cavities if it has a shielding inside. Then pull through the second grounding cable to the back of the body, which will be connected to the trem bar, and pull the cables through for the jack. Take a couple of pickguard screws to fix it to the body. At this point you don't need all of them, just a couple of them. And on the back side now, it's very important that the grounding in the guitar is done right and correctly, so you won't get any hums or interferences, and just solder the jack with the right cables And at this point I wanted to check if everything is wired correctly and if the pickups work correctly. Everything worked as it should, so everything was perfect. It is important to check it, because if something is not right, then it's still easy to take it apart and fix it, because once the strings are on, then it's much more complicated. But because everything was right, then it was just time to close it and put all the pickguard screws onto their places, tighten it up, and final adjustments, put on the back plate, close it up of course. And at this point I could say that it was almost done, so only the final adjustments, the stringing and the setup remained. At this point I already had a feeling that it will just turn out great. Just look at it, it is just beautiful. So it was time to string it up. I really like elixir strings and I always use the 10 OptiWebs, so this guitar is going to get them as well. First check the radius on the strings, tune them up correctly, of course check the neck relief under tension, check the string height and set it up correctly, check and fine tune the saddles, the intonation of the strings, and after each and every modification that you make you always have to, of course, tune up the strings, and when you're done with all of it, then you're ready to go. And finally, here it is, just look at it, the ultimate 62 Stratocaster Fender American Vintage Reissue Partscaster, just finished and ready to play. It really looks stunning and look at it, it's just gorgeous. I mean, I'm really happy with it. So it's time to plug it in and see how it sounds. honestly, this turned out even better than I expected. The feel is just perfect, and I'd say it can hold its own against any custom shop build, and I can honestly say that one of my dreams is literally fulfilled with this guitar, so oh man, I just can't believe it. And these Kloppmann pickups just really shine, crystal clear cleans, and when you dig in they're really dynamic, and they've got that perfect vintage bite, whether you're playing on the neck for smooth blues or the bridge for some funk and biting leads. This guitar is an absolute tone machine now with these pickups. The dynamics of these are just unreal, and they have that warmth and depth that only comes from pickups wound to vintage specs, and they are as close as you can get as having an original 62 Strat, without shelling out tens of thousands of bucks for a real one. And for this build I wanted nothing less but only the best, and the Kloppmann Real 62s are exactly that. These pickups don't just replicate the sound of that era, they also replicate the feel, which is just as important for those of us who really appreciate the subtleties in our playing. Thanks for watching this build come through on Tone Chase Basement. I can really say this guitar is a special one, and you'll be seeing it on my channel a lot in the future. And please let me know if you have any questions regarding this build. I will be more than happy to answer your questions in the comment section. And if you're thinking about building your own Partscaster, I really hope that it gave you some inspiration and some technical insight how to do it. And once again, big thanks to Kloppmann Electrics for these amazing pickups. And don't forget to like, subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss out any future content. So until next time. And remember, the perfect tone is always just within reach.